We could ask him any. Oh shit! Here we go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Unbiased America Live. The fellow who was talking when we opened up is Kevin Ryan, who is suffering from Alzheimer's as well
Dementia
as
too. Yeah,
Parkinson's,
dementia.
and he is not taking his medication today. He's actually boycotting Big Pharma, which we're going to talk to Austin about a little later. Also, we have Grant Phillips here from the Modern Libertarian, and we are capitalists. And myself and Will Riccadella from Unbiased America, and our special guest Austin Petersen, who is running for who is a presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. And I'm going to start off with a couple of questions about that. First and foremost, how have your dealings been with the Libertarian Party thus far? We had Wayne Allen Root on a couple of weeks ago, who said it was a fairly difficult ordeal amongst the Libertarian Party, using the terminology that they eat their own. Have you encountered any of this sort of resistance?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Even though I worked for the party for a year and I've been embedded in the libertarian movement for 9 years, and I've done nothing but work on behalf of libertarians behind the scenes to help libertarians. Almost all of the libertarians who I have labored on behalf of have done almost nothing to lift me up, and that's not that's just the way of the world. It's like that in corporate America, and it's like that in the liberty movement. I think we would do a lot better if we helped each other out, simply because I see the combined resources. I see the resources that everybody has available, and we all can sort of like do well individually, but not as much as when we work together. Which it was when we worked together that I was able to get Judge Napolitano his own shows, because of the collective effort of our movement, united behind a cause. But it's very difficult, of course, to get people to unite behind a cause when that cause is someone that's not them. And so, very few people are selfless.
So you think it's a personal thing, like they're jealous to an extent?
So perhaps that jealousy is absolutely a part of it, but it's also simply a lack of interest, or maybe a lack of motivation. I mean, if you're Peter Schiff, you've got a ton of money. Why do you need to go and help anybody else out?
Right.
There's no incentive, right?
True.
So it's deliberate, and it's also sort of like a sin of omission, perhaps. But I mean, I expected that. You know what? Nobody's ever given me anything. I've had to earn every single damn dime and every single honor and accolade and gold star and everything on my resume. So I expect to have to do the same thing here, because it's just, if maybe if the circumstances were different, some people get things handed to them, and I've just, I've never been one of those guys.
So, just one more question on this topic, and then we'll move on. But I mean, we notice things, Kevin, Grant, me, Matt, that a lot of libertarians tend to focus on the minutia of policy and ideology. That if you don't agree with the NAP, or if you're not all in for ending the Fed, or or you come up with certain more like Friedmanite policies, that a lot of these people are going to bash you or try to tear you down. Do you see that happening within the Libertarian Party? Or is it the opposite?
Libertarian doesn't have a problem really so much with the ideas. They have a problem with marketing, and the people who are best at marketing the ideas, they tend to despise. That comes from I believe there's a bit of a hipster, sort of a hipster.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Right. Because if it gets cool, then they won't be able to.
If it's mainstream, it's no longer libertarian, right?
Right. And I mean, the people who tend to be antisocial tend to be drawn to ideas of extreme individualism, and misanthropes, and people who tend to not care
like
about
Kevin. Yeah. He's very misanthropic.
Again, I hate to always talk about like what's wrong with libertarianism, but if we're going to talk about what's wrong with libertarianism, it's marketing. I was having a discussion with someone today who was saying, you're going to try. He was talking about the non-aggression principle versus the. He was talking about the non-aggression principle versus selling in the war, being against the war on drugs, or ending Social Security. And he's like, we should focus on the non-aggression principle and not talking about ending war on drugs and Social Security. And I go, I mean, I hate to be a jerk. I really don't like being a jerk, to be quite honest. But when I'm prodded, I do. I'm like a porcupine. I got the spikes. And so I had to explain to him that you're talking to someone who is literally an expert in marketing, PR, communications, media. That is my freaking job. Okay? I mean, it's like walking into a chocolatier and telling him how to make his chocolate. I can sell ice to an Eskimo. Okay, so I know how to sell these ideas, and I think that libertarians should look at the people who are doing the best. You know, Julie Borowski, Jeffrey Tucker, Austin Petersen, Tom Woods. Who are the best at selling these ideas? There's a reason. Listen, there are 100 neckbeards who would love to have my job. If they could take it, they would. Don't you think they would? If they were better, they would do it. But they're not, so they don't.
But you don't nap. You don't nap hard enough, Austin.
What'd you say?
I said you don't nap hard enough.
I know. If I refuse to take a nap, does that mean I'm under arrest?
Yeah.
Arrest. No. Yeah.
So
if you want to have another conversation about the nap, man, it's going to be another.
yeah, nap. Do you even nap? So who helped you so far? Who's been helpful in your campaign and networking and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I've been bankrolled and assisted by Dark Money, Evil, Koch brother, type.
This isn't looking good.
No, it's there's a small group of individuals, of people who really care about what I'm doing, who believe in me, who know me personally, who have been sending me $100 here, $100 there, buying little wristbands, $5 here, $5 there, let me sleep on their couch to go to events and things like that. I'm the underdog in this race. I've got to beat an incumbent. Gary Johnson is the incumbent. He's the Jeb Bush of libertarian politics, and I've got to knock off a popular two-term governor, Republican governor from New Mexico. So it puts me at a distinct disadvantage, and so it's only going to be people who truly know me and care about me that are going to advance me. There's already a constituency of people who want to make sure that I don't succeed. So I have to, work hard to beat. It's an almost insurmountable challenge. But you know what? I love those kinds of challenges. Absolutely.
How big is your campaign now to date?
What do you mean by big?
How many employees? What are you working with?
Well, I've got about 6 people that are on the staff, right, and about 25 volunteers.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. And I expect that to expand as it becomes more likely that I could beat Gary Johnson for the nomination. And I've got time.
Can you actually tell people, if they're watching right now, where they can go to donate money? Is there?
Yeah, so if you know that my last name is Danish, so it's spelled S-E-N, not O-N, so Austin Petersen, S-E-N, austinpetersen2016.com. And you've got the beginnings of my platform there. I'm putting together actually a think tank of economists and defense experts, so I'll be able to propose a real transitionary platform to the American people here in the coming months. And you can donate there. You can also purchase an AP for LP wristband, which are pretty cool. And there's all sorts of information there about me and my background, my history, and why I think I'd be the best person to lead the Liberty movement into 2016.
Is there, to make it easy for them, is there any links on your social sites that they can readily click?
Yeah, if you go to Facebook/Producer Petersen, or if you type in Austin Petersen in Google, Austin Petersen for President, you'll find it there, and it's all over the place. So.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to ask one policy question here, and talk about what you want to do and the differences between you and Gary Johnson, and then I'm going to open it up to the other guys so they can all fire away at you here. Number one, how has Gary Johnson treated you thus far? And number two, what do you see as the biggest differences between you guys within the Libertarian Party? Why should libertarians choose you as opposed to Gary Johnson?
Well, that's a good question. I hate to get into the it's better, or it's worse, because I actually like Gary Johnson a lot. I think he's a great guy. I mean, he's a good representative of our ideas and somebody that I look up to and admire and supported in the last election. I did everything I could to get Gary Johnson when I was at Fox, get Gary Johnson on not just Freedom Watch, but on every show that I could on Fox News. I was the first producer to book him there at that network, and he doesn't even know how hard I worked behind the scenes to get him on other shows. So I don't want this to be a bash Gary fest, but from a tactical perspective, Gary's already lost. He's already done the exact same thing that every other libertarian candidate has pretty much gotten, about 1%. And I think that I'm a more dynamic speaker. I think that young people would be more interested in the campaign if I were to lead it. It would be less about marijuana, more about economics. And I think that, frankly, the millennials are taking over this movement anyway. And perhaps it's time for us to turn it over to the youth because the older generation hasn't really turned it out for us.
Okay, that's a good point you bring up. And I had this problem with YAL and organizing a YAL chapter. and dealing with Yal, and it's that libertarian, everything had to be about marijuana, everything had to be about the Fed, the drug war, and that's fine, and a lot of those things do need to change, but what no one ever focused on were economic issues, the type of things that Kevin and Grant and I tend to write about an awful lot, and we see as huge problems such as corporatism. I think you wrote about, Grant, just recently something on it's time to lift the child labor laws. And Kevin pointed out today that you exposed Bernie Sanders' fallacy there of talking about the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And we want to all raise the standard of living, I think, first. And then we could deal with those issues later. I think that a more trying issue is, in fact, economics and liberty as it relates to constitutional principles. Kevin, do you see? I think Austin has a good strategy. Do you see it the same way, as insofar as a libertarian platform?
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's
Think it will
absolutely
attract
right.
young people.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely right. You know, I know a lot of young people did like Gary Johnson and Ron Paul for the reasons that they were libertarian, but there really hasn't been a young person representing the movement, and that's something I've always thought about, is the fact that you've got all these libertarians are generally very young, and you've got all these young people, and they've constantly been supporting older names. And as much as they like, and as much as Ron Paul or Gary Johnson represents them, they're from a different generation, and I think he is on the right path. He's saying the right things, at least, about trying to bring youth into the race. I don't know, it's the same thing that Marco Rubio's doing. If you look at him, how he tries to compare himself to the other people in the race, certainly with Hillary, he tries to say that he's the next generation, I think it is a tactic that might work. But again, like he said, like Austin said, he's up against an establishment. Well, he's not establishment, but a guy has established himself. So it's a double-edged sword. He's the young guy starting out. But I wish him all the luck in the world.
It's an advantage.
Yeah, I'd love to have Austin make some headway in the Libertarian Party. I was saying earlier, imagine if he gets elected president. Imagine if we know the guy gets elected president. We can ask you, Austin, were there really UFOs at Roswell? We can ask you all these questions, and you got to tell us, because you came on our show, you're our friend, you have to tell us these things. So I'm definitely rooting for you.
All right, deal.
And this is the platform, obviously, that's going to spring you into the presidency. It's Unbiased America Live with their massive viewing.
That's right.
Grant, I saw, to that point and to Austin's broader point on his campaign strategy and how it differs, I saw a report or a study at a Harvard University that younger people, your age people, are more conservative actually than they were in 2008, this wave that elected Barack Obama. And if you remember, in 2008 there was this huge groundswell for Ron Paul too. And they were saying that at this point, but the problem with the groundswell with Ron Paul is that you had a majority of younger people that were very progressive. They wanted to vote for Barack Obama, the first black president, but that has changed since, and they're really up for grabs. Do you think the Libertarian Party has a chance at grabbing these people, or do you think it's more of maybe like a Rand Paul has a chance at grabbing these people? And what are the deficiencies with the party that Austin explained, like with Gary Johnson's strategy and the Libertarian Party strategy as a whole?
Well, I think that it will definitely spark an important section of the libertarian movement, because there is, like Kevin said, there is no young figurehead in that. But I don't think that they're quite ready for a third party, so to speak. But I think that a young person with a bright mind like Austin leading it into a younger movement and a more expansive movement is excellent for the future. And he's definitely doing a good job about it.
All right. Well, why don't you ask? I know you have some questions for Austin. Why don't you start, and then we'll go with Kevin.
Yeah. All right. So, Austin, I wanted to ask you, one thing I've always thought about is, how do you get to libertarianism? Because I don't think you could just sort of flick the switch. It would create. I personally think it would create a massive deadweight loss and create a lot of other issues. So it's got to be.
Clarify, get to libertarianism when he's like a libertarian platform. How to enact when he's president?
Libertarian platform, like as a positive policy, so to speak, not a normative policy.
Okay.
The welfare state, for example, is currently an extremely bloated part of the economy. I think if you were to just slash benefits from 100% to 0%, a lot of people would suffer very badly for a very long period of time. I think it has to be slowly broached. Do you agree with that? If so, why not?
Yeah, well, let's remember, of course, that the president isn't a dictator.
Right, no, right. Just theoretically, hypothetically, an
Well,
Austin Petersen dictatorship.
right, the president also doesn't write law, and you have to work with the Congress that you're given. So, assuming that I take the White House in 2017, they're assuming that there's a Republican majority in the Senate and the House. Probably we would be more. They would be more open to working with me on reforms, certain welfare reforms or entitlement reforms. And budget cutting measures and things like that. They would give me a harder time, of course, when it comes to the military, and they would fight me on some of those other things. But when it comes, honestly, Grant, I mean, wouldn't a victory at this point being something like a Calvin Coolidge, simply just vetoing the hell out of every single bill that I can get my hands on? Anything that's not constitutional or that doesn't no budget that's not balanced.
Speaking of naps, you're speaking of nap, you could take a lot of naps.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
would be helpful.
Exactly. It's not so much what I want to do as president; it's so much as of what I want to not do as president. And, I like to make the tagline, the joke, that I'm going to take over the government and leave everyone alone.
So it's sort of a turn off the drain kind of thing, or turn off the faucet kind of thing, and approach and rein in the beast first.
Yeah, at this point, when the boat is headed, the big barge is headed in a certain direction, you got to slow it down even before you start turning, because if you start turning the boat and you're still going full speed, people are going to fly off. So you've got to slow the boat down and then start to make the turn.
Let me build off of Grant's question here quickly and give you a more pointed one. Let's say you are elected, hypothetically speaking. You'll have political capital. Okay, you'll have a lot of political capital to begin with.
For a while. Yeah.
Certainly for a while, so you'll get to pick something that you want to put through, and hopefully at the time, if the Republicans haven't screwed it up by then, you'll have a Republican majority still in the House and Senate. What would be the first thing, I'm making an assumption here, is the first thing you want to do is repeal something. What would be the first bill you'd want the Republicans to put on your desk insofar as repealing legislation that you would sign? Well, are you looking more towards repealing Obamacare?
Yeah, that's my number one thing. Yeah, if I could repeal that, I would do so, simply because of the massive costs that it's placed on the system. It's also full of moral hazard. People in Congress don't have to do it. The Supreme Court. It's ridiculous that that our government officials can pass laws that they're immune to. So I would repeal it for moral reasons, ethical reasons, and economic reasons. And that would be one of the things that I would do immediately in order to bring down costs. I would also love to allow insurance to compete across state lines. The insurance companies don't like that, but I would like to see a real market in medicine emerge, because our healthcare is really our most critical industry, and that's the one that should be regulated by the marketplace the most. So yes, that's what I would go for. Also, I do have the power to deschedule drugs at the federal level. And that's something we could talk about. I'd like to see Judge Knapp take the role of Attorney General, be my pit bull until a Supreme Court nomination opens up. And so I think that that he could do a lot of work, a lot of good by reining in the police state and pulling back on the sort of heavy-handed federal enforcement that we have in the war on drugs. I don't think the DEA agents are going to like me. I don't think that the ATF are going to like me a whole lot. But you know what? If they pull a JFK on me, I regret that I had but one life away from my country, fellas.
I only think that they care about getting paid. They'll take orders anyway. I just think
yeah, well, there's the people are like,
Get some paychecks.
Yeah. Go ahead, Grant. Do you have any more questions? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have another question. I really liked what you were saying about you being able to use your executive power to your advantage, and my next question is, do you think using an executive order to your power is moral? Because Obama gets a lot of criticism about, Bush and the rest of them really get a lot of criticism about questionable executive orders. So would you be willing to do that or no?
If I thought that it was constitutional, if I thought that it was legal and it advanced liberty, yeah, I would. If it was something like the opening up the machine gun registry, For example, allowing people to actually exercise their Second Amendment right to its fullest extent, which I believe that every individual citizen should be allowed to do. So things like that, yeah, absolutely, I would do that, and that's going to freak out a lot of psycho-liberals, but they're just going to have to deal with it because nobody puts Bieber in the corner.
I agree with you. I think I would bend the rules if it meant advancing liberty if I was president.
I mean, he did say within the Constitution, which I think is a radical thing to say these days. Oh, I'm going to work within the Constitution. A collective gasp.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah, you have a Second Amendment right, and there it didn't say muskets.
Right. That's right. Go ahead, Kevin. I know you have some questions too. You're on mute.
Yeah.
He's old.
I've always wondered about people that run for president in the Libertarian Party, or for a candidate in the Libertarian Party at all, at any level. And this is sort of a realistic question. I don't mean offense by it, but running for president of a party that realistically has zero chance to win, what is the rationale? Running for president, actually running for president can be an expensive, time-consuming process that can put people's career behind schedule and so forth. Why do it? What is your rationale for running for president? And I know you might want to instinctively say to win, but again, realistically, what is the motivation for people who run in the Libertarian Party? Is it a stepping stone in a political career? Is it a business move?
I mean, it's a lot of things. So when you have you ever played Risk? If you've ever played Risk, or if you've ever played the Chinese game of Go, that's another good example, right? So these games are all about taking and holding positions, right? So when you're fighting a war, which is what the battle with the state is, this is what my speech at Liberty Fest was all about. When you're fighting a war, and we are at war with big government, then you have the king, right? You want to take the king, or you want to hold, but in order to do so, you can't just strike at the king first. Is if you strike at the king first, you've got to kill him, or else you're going to get killed yourself. So really what it is a lot of times is you're setting yourself up for future victories by taking ground. Have you ever done a negotiation and asked for more than you really thought you could get, and then they negotiate you down? So perhaps there's a chance that if I run for president, maybe I would win the White House. But if I didn't win the White House, there are certain strategic battles along the way to be won in simply running for the office that I can acquire. I'm a liberty champion. I'm a skirmisher. I'm a fighter. I'm a warrior. And so it's this to me is picking up the claymore and running down in the fields with my kilt flying up. So I'm really looking at certain areas, certain victories that I can win. Let me just name a couple of them real quick. One, I could get 3 to 5% of the vote, which would mean that I'd be back in 4 more years with 10,000 of my friends who could be on the ballot, because you'd get ballot access for the Libertarian Party. Now, wouldn't that be a great victory if we could get 3 to 5% of the vote, not just 1% of the vote, but really galvanize enough voters that we could get that kind of a national vote total? And think about all of the young people that we could get into the Libertarian Party. Because the type of people who tend to work with me and on behalf of me, they tend to be freedom ninjas, right? So I get the best of the best. I'm the SEAL Team 6 of libertarianism. And so the army of people that I am building right now will pay dividends. Think about it like this: if the Libertarian Party nominates me as the candidate, you're going to give me that feather in my cap. The activism that I will produce for the next few decades will pay off dividends. Let's say Gary Johnson wins. Well, he's going to be gone in 4 years, or he's going to be gone in 10 years. I'm going to be here for 30, 40, 50 more years. I'm not going away. So you're empowering not only me, but you're empowering the army of activists, these freedom ninjas that I like to call them, behind me as well. So remember, it's not just about me. It's about the people that are behind me. And if you know me and you know the people who work for me or the people who work on my behalf, or if you've seen anything or you know anything about my resume, which a lot of people don't, but if you know anything about me, you know that empowering my team is going to grant us more victories in the future. So it's all about taking ground. Is it good for business? Probably not really, because it's actually putting my business on the sidelines while I'm trying to go capture, what they say, tilting at windmills. I am Don Quixote. But is it helping my brand? Yeah, maybe. But it also gets me a lot of hate and a lot of enemies. And Gary Johnson's kind of mad at me. And Rand Paul supporters, think, like, what the hell are you doing, Austin? And a lot of my old friends are like, what the hell are you doing? And certainly a lot of people are questioning me. So it's not all roses and champagne. So yeah, I'm hoping that there's going to be some benefit on the end of this, but I expect to struggle, and I expect to come out of this with a lot more scars than I had when I went into it. So do I hope that there's going to be benefit? Yeah, but really what I'm doing is what I've always done, not lifting up not only my own voice, but the voices of the people who are behind me.
I know it's interesting you bring that up. I want to ask about that. Who's we getting feedback from, Will?
Not me. I don't know.
Anyways, I want to ask a question about Rand Paul, because I know you were a big Rand Paul supporter. Have you essentially cut off your promotion activities for Rand Paul or for the GOP, or any way curtailed what you had been doing up until you made the decision to run?
Legally, I have to tell you, yes.
So that's it. You do legally have to. You can't talk.
I can't say, oh yes, I'm supporting Rand Paul in some way. And in my career as a private citizen, I have nothing but respect and admiration for Rand Paul. If he won, would I think that it would be good for America? Absolutely. But I worked for his father, on behalf of his father, in both of his campaigns recently, in 2008 and 2012. And I saw the stabbing in the back that occurs by the Republicans when a libertarian gets close to the nomination. And I never promise. I mean, I'm not a pledge. I'm not a pledge guy. Like I'm a real libertarian. Okay, I do what I think is right, on the day to day. And to me, we should be supporting all libertarians, all lovers of liberty. Jim Webb's a pretty good Democrat. One of my favorite president was Grover Cleveland, a Democrat. So when people start flipping party labels in my face, I want to start doing some karate chopping, because I don't give a damn. I care about ideas and the people who are championing our ideas. And so I'm not going to talk crap on Rand Paul. I think that they could probably run their campaign better. But all things being told, they've got a lot against them too. And so. It's not that I can't promote Rand Paul anymore, because that would get me in trouble. But what I can say is that he's a good man, and I hope he does well. And if he doesn't win, then I will be there to carry the torch for a short time until the November elections, and I'll do my damnedest to make sure that Liberty looks good.
Yeah, I remember I voted for Grover Cleveland, actually. Did you actually think to yourself, did you make the decision like a Rand Paul made? Should I try to infiltrate the GOP? Should I run at a GOP level? And how did you make that decision to actually go for the Libertarian Party as opposed to what Rand has done and tried to infiltrate the GOP?
So that is a very good question, and it's something that I think about quite a lot. So functionally as a Republican, I probably don't have. There's really not a space for somebody like me. I don't fit into any typical Republican mold. I don't really actually fit into any typical libertarian mold much either, considering that nowadays you have to be an anarchist or you're not a libertarian, and so us minarchists are now on an island. So I think that I actually do better a lot of times as an outsider. I do better because I have mainstream appeal, but I'm a little edgy. I think I do better by taking these edgy positions and advancing them, and being a little bit more of that BAMF, you know what I mean, when it comes to that, a little bit more rebellious, especially when I'm still young and sexy, so I should probably play that role. But the thing is that somebody's got to do it, and I saw Gary Johnson, there was an interview right before, the week before, I think this is probably the thing that made me slam my head on the desk and say, damn it, it's time to run. Was that Gary said that he saw no benefit to getting into the race right now. And I thought to myself, there is a lot of benefit if you're trying to do something good for the movement, if you want to build an army. Now is our seed time. Thomas Paine, before the revolution, they said, Thomas, is it really time to have a revolution? Is this the time? And he says, yes, now is the seed time. Now is the time when we must plant our seeds, when there are plenty, when when the fields are ripe and ready. And we have never had a better opportunity to advance our ideas because the establishment is weak. You know, the Republicans are jockeying for the position. The Democrats are in this sort of monolithic, you know, gray area. And libertarianism is out in the wilderness. You know, it's like the Israelis, the Israelites, you know, 40 years of darkness, and we're all just sort of like out in the wilderness. And Gary Johnson is just kind of like, meh. You know, running for president of the Libertarian Party, you need to be the liberty champion. You know, you need to be out there defending our ideas and fighting and causing trouble. You know, and I'm a troublemaker for the establishment, and I always have been. So yeah, I think that I was frustrated, and I think that, you know, one of the reasons why I did it is because I think I can win. I think that I actually have a chance to overturn the crown and to take it and to win. You know, not a good chance, but, you know, I think I probably have a lot better chance than some of the other people who are running for the Libertarian Party presidency. So why shouldn't I try if I think I would do a good job? And wouldn't you like to see a young, articulate man who can express these ideas in a way that is interesting and exciting to people? You know, this is what I'm good at. This is my strength. This is probably what I should be doing. I haven't had anybody say I shouldn't be doing this. I had one guy, actually, and they all work for the opposing campaigns, tell me I should. But no, I think that this is the right thing to do for us, and it is a bit of a sacrifice. But you know, we're going to see what's going to happen. We've got Orlando is going to be next May. The convention will be in Orlando. I'm acquiring delegates. I'm growing the party. I'm getting more people involved and activated because I think I provide something unique that not a single other presidential candidate, not even Rand Paul, provides, that except for possibly Donald Trump, that the American people really like. You know, there's a reason why Donald Trump is leading in the polls. It's because he's a badass, and that's what the American people want. They want a president. They want commander-in-chief of badassery, and you know, they don't want somebody who's apologizing and kowtowing and kissing butt and saying all these nice little sweet flowery words and blah blah blah. You know, they want an ass kicker. You know, they got to. Who do you think of all the Libertarian Party? Who would you trust to go up against Vladimir Putin? You know,
Grant Phillips.
Yeah, Grant Phillips. You know, I never. You know, there's two words that Judge Napolitano used to describe me: utterly fearless. And you know, I have rational fears, but I'm not afraid of any threat or challenge. And I will take on this challenge, and I will bear this burden for a short time.
What do you think your chances are to get the nomination?
Oh, I would say they're probably running. I'm probably running just behind the margin of error with Johnson. If Johnson got 75% of the vote last time, which is a total blowout, I'll bet if the nomination were held today, he would probably beat me, but it may be like 6 or 7 point difference because if I was given the ability to go up on stage against Governor Johnson and to debate him and to schmooze the delegates face to face, he would probably feel the heat, and maybe that would make him a better candidate, and maybe that would be a victory too.
Is the Libertarian Party going to have a debate?
They'll probably have one debate that will be official, and it will be at the Libertarian National Convention.
Okay, so you have to wait till, what was it, May?
That's correct.
Okay. We brought up Rand earlier, and I wanted to bring this up during the show. Did any of you guys see the outtake on the Rand live stream?
Oh, gosh.
I called it a dumbass dumbass stream.
I just wanted to point out one that was hilarious.
Awesome. Wait. Explain it. I didn't see it. What happened?
Go ahead, Grant.
He's been doing this like live stream from his campaign trail, and basically someone asked him, "Do you really think he's still in this thing? Do you really think you're gonna win?" And he goes, "Yeah. Why do you think I'm doing this dumbass stream?"
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I mean, I don't know. I don't. The live stream thing was a good idea, but it just seems like he doesn't want to. The guy's just his campaign's not really doing so well, and it's a shame. And he doesn't need a blunder right now either. But that's kind of, he just looks angry, and he did in those debates, and that's going to hurt him. But speaking of debates, let's get to what does Bernie Sanders call himself again? A Democratic Socialist?
Fascist?
Yeah. Okay. So let's get back to the Socialist Democratic Party debate. Austin, who do you think? I mean, the media has already crowned Hillary the winner, which I figured was going to happen. Who do you think was the most? Let me ask, who was the most rational human being on that stage? I mean, because at one point they were literally debating what's a better way to allocate resources, capitalism or socialism. It's very upsetting. But who was the most rational person on the stage?
Jim Webb.
Okay,
Jim
I mean
Webb.
that's clear. Yeah, clearly, and he's a kook. As far that's just like that's just Jeb Bush standing there to me.
As far as the Democrats are concerned, he's a kook. But I mean, Jim Webb's a good man. You know, I loved his response when he said, the one person or the people that you really despise, something like that. And he's like, the guy who shot me in Vietnam, but he ain't around no more.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a nice man. But I mean, to me, that's just a Jeb Bush standing there. You could put Jeb Bush, Chris Christie, Kasich there. Same thing to me. But maybe I'm just maybe I'm a radical. Did you legitimately see Hillary as the winner?
In what sense? I mean, that she's the one who's going to win the nomination, probably.
No, of the debate, that perhaps she didn't blow it. She picked up new steam, some momentum, and it gave her some. I think when the polls come out, I think she'll have a decent showing, and I think Bernie gave her some cover there, certainly on the email thing. What do you think?
Right. So what happens with someone like Bernie Sanders is kind of like what happens to Ron Paul. You get a lot of new people into the party, and you get a lot of people really excited about your candidacy, and you lose because you have a ceiling on your support. And this actually, they've done a poll on Rand Paul, and they say this is why Rand Paul can't win. And it's probably the most feasible explanation for why someone like Rand Paul or Bernie Sanders can't win, and it's because of likely Republican voters and people who have voted Republican primaries and caucuses before. There's an unfavorability rating, and that is actually one of the key sort of polling items that they look at. And Bernie Sanders has a very high unfavorability rating amongst the Democratic poll goers, and then Hillary Clinton's, of course, has the lower unfavorability rating. So those tend to be what they look at, because if you're talking about your support, there's generally going to be a ceiling on it. And right now, they're saying that Rand Paul has reached the ceiling of his support, and Bernie Sanders, and Hillary Clinton has room to grow.
That leads to my next question, as it relates to Bernie Sanders as an actual threat. And I mean, I understand the ceiling argument. I could see that certainly for Ron Paul, but I think a majority of the Democratic Party is in the closet socialist, if not completely out of the closet socialist. I think Bernie Sanders, I don't think he necessarily has a ceiling. I think his problem is he isn't Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton has some ardent followers. I think a lot of that unfavorability is the fact that he isn't Hillary Clinton. I think on the debate on that stage showed how far left the party is moving, and that it is feasible for Bernie Sanders to pick up new followers. Do you think I'm off base? Am I overstating the problem?
Yeah, I think that, the Washington Post came out with an article the other day that said, why is Bernie Sanders not going to win? And they say because he calls himself a democratic socialist. And then when they looked at, when you do an actual poll of people on what they think about socialism in the United States, like a general poll, not just Democratic voters, it has a very, very high unfavorability rating for the most part. People actually do tend to kind of like capitalism in some sense. So I would say that Bernie Sanders is one of those guys that, again, you get the useful idiots. A lot of people who just think that who are just so optimistic, like I was for Ron Paul, thinking that there was a chance that maybe we could win. But you don't understand the Clinton machine, the dirty tricks.
Oh God.
You've got to know how to play those dirty tricks, and Bernie Sanders doesn't strike me as the type of guy who's willing to do what it takes to get elected, which is to start talking about the fact that Hillary Clinton might have an inoperable brain tumor. Start talking about the fact that she's going senile, or how she treats her Secret Service agents, or the things that the American public cares about, unfortunately. But those are the things that are going to destabilize her. Hillary Clinton has no problem using the rules for radicals from Saul Alinsky. By the way,
big time Alinsky,
the birther stuff, the Obama birth certificate stuff, that was Hillary Clinton that started that. So don't think that she won't use it against her opponents.
I think she worked for Alinsky, didn't she, for a while? I think at one time she did, or she was an understudy of his.
I'm not sure. But
I think she did.
Yeah, but she's learned from the master because his tips and techniques are definitely being put to use by the Clintons.
Let me direct that question that I asked you, Austin, at Grant, who's written many articles in support of Bernie Sanders to become king of the United States. Grant, do you think, I think, and maybe I'm just too steeped in academia, because, I mean, these people are extremely far left. I'm talking beyond socialism in as much as they want expropriation. They want to take back the property of the workers. I wish I was kidding. I'm not. But they're all Democrats. They support Bernie Sanders. A lot of the kids that are in these classes, I don't think they understand what's going on, but they just toe the line. And I think a lot of older Democrats and people within the Democrat Party are, in fact, to a degree, socialist. I mean, what are they doing? It's about redistributing wealth, is it not? It's about taking from one person and giving it to another. I don't know where the government ever got legitimate authority to do that. But do you think there is a cap on Bernie's support?
I don't think there is. I wish to God that there was, but I think Hillary Clinton is crumbling, and she's going to continue to crumble. And as we move closer to the primary election, it's going to get worse. And Bernie Sanders' support will grow because the idea that he's selling is anti-establishment, but it's in a way that is more easily marketable than Ron Paul's version of anti-establishment. Especially to young kids who are easily moldable and have been in these collegiate academic institutions.
Why do you think it's more marketable than Ron Paul? That's an interesting point. What is it?
I think it's more marketable because it's a bailout for millennials. He's literally offering them a bailout. He's saying, I'll pay for your college debt, I'll pay for all your child care, and the list goes on, health care, the list goes on and on and on. And all of these things are very easily misrepresented in statistics, so it's very easy to sell. And it lends itself to power, so lots of people are more willing to help, so to speak, to help send the message and to market the message. Whereas Ron Paul was really saying, I kind of just want to, like Austin said, I want to leave you alone. And that's not what the populist masses want to hear right now, I think, in terms of the greater general election.
So it's demagogic at its core.
Exactly. It's what got Obama elected. It's exactly the same thing. Right. Only now there's a million more people who are, so a million more people who can vote.
Right.
And I think it's going to continue to build and just move further left.
And then let me bring this up to Kevin too. You watched the debate, Kevin. Hillary's performance. Some people are talking about O'Malley's as being a good performance, but do you think Hillary really? I mean, do you think she stopped that downward trend and really kind of held her ground against Bernie there, and you'll start to see a little bit a reversal? Or
I think she, I watched the debate not as somebody who is an economically astute person. I watched it as just trying to pretend I was an American, who was a liberal and so forth. And she did. She came across. She did not come across as somebody who was fumbling, and she batted away all the attacks. I think she. Before the debate, I mean, she was still a double-digit leader, 20-point leader over Sanders. I think the debate has sealed, unless something comes out from the email or some other controversy comes out. I think it sealed her as the nominee, and I think I don't think Bernie Sanders did any sort of help to his own cause when he told people to stop talking about her emails. But I think to bring up Sanders, I think what Sanders is doing is what Austin said earlier, is except in a dangerous direction. He's staking territory. What he's doing, and I don't think he ever thought he would make it this far. I don't think he thought he would do this well, but I don't think he cared. Just like what Austin said, he's staking territory, not for himself or his future, because he's 74 years old, but for the future of socialism. I think he's making a case that it's okay to support a socialist, and that if you listen to a socialist, that you'll find out he's not scary. He's not the Soviet Union. This is a guy who just wants to help us. This is a guy who I could support him, or I could later on support a socialist for the president of the United States, someone like Elizabeth Warren. And I think he's laying the groundworks for the future of a socialist party, or at least socialist infiltration. Well, they're already there in the Democratic Party, but he's pushing this so far to the left that I think that's his tactic, and that at least is what he has in mind. I don't think he ever thought he was going to win, but he's definitely taking territory, like Austin said.
and Austin, and I'm going to get you guys in on this too, but in the debate, which is scary here, you have Hillary Clinton trying to position herself a little bit to the right of Bernie Sanders as it relates to some obviously corporatist, which they call capitalist aspects, and to the left of Barack Obama. I mean, we have a party moving even further left of Barack Obama. These are the voters they're trying to get. I think that's somewhat dangerous. I mean, we have actually at this point a debate about two sorts of ways to allocate resources, socialism and capitalism, and the major failure of the Republican Party is the inability to speak eloquently and with some sort of erudition about capitalism. So my question, Austin, is what are you going to do, I mean, even to make a moral case? It seems to be a moral argument at this point. What is more moral? Is it socialism? We know, empirically speaking, capitalism is the most efficient way to allocate scarce resources with alternative uses. That is not even debatable. But they seem to claim the moral high ground in socialism, that, oh, these people are poor and the government has to do something about it, and the government has to take. And I don't think anyone on the Republican side speaks eloquently about the empirical side of capitalism, nor the more important aspect, the moral side of capitalism. Is there anything that you think you can do to maybe push the debate a little bit to the moral side of capitalism as a better way to increase the standard of living for all people?
Right. So just recently, The Economist published some research that showed that for the first time in human history, we're preparing to have less than 10% of the people in the world living in poverty. And when you talk about when you talk about all of human history, capitalism, in a sense, is a relatively new invention. It's really only been around for about 200 to 300 years, because the systems that we had before, were feudalism, mercantilism, and other areas of state control. If you look at China, for example, the economic growth in China has saved, I think it's somewhat almost 1 billion lives, because of the economic growth that has occurred from the liberalization in China. And we have to remember that capitalism is liberalization. And what are we libertarians? Classical liberals. This is one of my favorite jokes. That this girl one time I met, she was introduced to me, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Austin's in politics," and she goes, "Oh really?" She goes, "Oh well, I'm a liberal," and I go, "Yeah, me too, babe." Classical. And she's like, "Ooh, what's that? Classical liberal? That sounds fancy." And I was kind of like, "Let me introduce you to classical liberalism." So yeah, we got to bring sexy back, and we've got to make capitalism fun and sexy again. And it can't just be the realm of nerds and economists and obscure Austrians and hipster libertarians. It's got to be something that's of, by, and for the people. And if people aren't invested, then I think that's the problem. Because why do socialists want to seize the means of production? They want to seize the means of production because they feel that workers don't have a stake in the outcome of what occurs, right? So they talk about things like wage slavery, and we got to raise the minimum wage. So there is a problem, because the regulatory system that we have right now doesn't really allow for so much for workers to be invested in businesses, unless you're talking about something like co-ops, for example. But I think that right now the problem is that when you look at the rhetoric, the type of rhetoric that capitalism's defenders use, they don't use the right rhetoric. They don't use empathy when they're discussing or debating things, and then also they aren't defending it from enough of a strong warrior stance. The left, they're warriors for socialism. They are violators of the NAP. They'll take their Mosin Nagant rifle, put the bayonet on, and stab a kulak any day of the week. They're willing to murder to redistribute wealth and to expropriate, as you said, Will. And we as capitalists, of course, if we're moral, we can't go as far as them. We believe that our system has to lift everyone up voluntarily, as we like to say. And so we have to be warriors, like the left are warriors for their philosophy. We have to be smooth and sexy and beautiful. That's marketing, that's PR, that's communications, and we have to have empathy. And those are the areas where I think libertarians are weak, because most of them, I think, if you do adhere to the non-aggression principle, then you're a pacifist, and really you should just go and join the Amish communities and stop wasting the rest of the philosopher warriors' time. And you need to empathize. If you're in your mother's basement, and you're eating hot pockets all day, then maybe it's time to come out and to give people a phone call and to volunteer. Get involved in a local charity so that people think that you have empathy. Do something. If you're going to do something for libertarian activism, maybe tie a charity into it. I did a Second Amendment protest for the Toy Gun March, right? We marched into Washington, D.C. But it wasn't just about causing a stink and raising a ruckus for our Second Amendment rights and talking about how ridiculous it was that kids were getting in trouble. We also raised over $1,000 for Toys for Tots and got a whole van full of toys for kids to donate on top of that as well. So capitalism is about win-win, right? So if you're going to be doing activism, you're going to be engaging in capitalism, you got to give a little bit back too. And so I think that when we're weak, we have to appear strong. When we're strong, we have to appear weak. And so wherever the holes in the boat are, where the leaks are in the hole, we have to be honest about that. And we're always trying to guard our principles. Well, that's perfectly fine. But if you haven't showered, if you haven't paid attention in your communication 101 class, if you haven't brushed up on your public speaking skills, all of your tremendous ideas are going to go for naught. So I teach a class frequently to the LOLA, the Ladies of Liberty Alliance, how to get on TV and look sexy when you're on. And that's a class in not only how to market yourself and get into television, but also how to act when you get on there.
Can you teach Kevin that, about how to be sexy on television? He's having a hard time, so if you could just post that in the private chat here, a link.
Right.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Austin, go ahead.
That's all good. So these sorts of things are, I love to read Mises and Hayek, and I read them all the time. I read, Henry Hazlitt and all of the libertarian greats, the same ones that everybody else is reading, Rothbard, Ron Paul, read Rand Paul's books even. And that's great. You got the ideas down, right? Well, there's something that we're missing. We're missing a bit of polish, and that polish is really what we need. I'm training people to compete with me, to do what I do, because I think we need more people who do what I do. And if that means that, I'm going to suffer because some more beautiful, handsome young man is going to come along and save us one day, well, maybe that would be a good thing, because maybe I'll be Barry Goldwater and my Ronald Reagan is waiting there. I know. What about you, Grant? Aren't you one of my little Padawans that now you've turned around and you're all big and famous now?
Yeah, I'm actually deciding to run for president as well for the Libertarian Party now. So you're in a little competition. Better watch out.
I appreciate it. I got to run, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
All right, thank you, Austin.
See you, Austin.
See ya. All right, guys, winners and losers. Kevin, I know you got winners and losers. Grant doesn't do anything. He's a degenerate.
Oh my God.
Go ahead, Kevin.
This is an easy one this week for the winner. It's Hillary, because she did so well, not so well, but well enough that the media has now gone back onto her side, and they've been so against her, and now they're saying, oh, suddenly she looks like a good candidate again, and they're behind her all over again. And I think that's basically gonna move her to basically the inevitable nominee of the Democrat Party. The loser, ironically, is the Democratic Party. I think because she did so well, I think that's going to keep Joe Biden out, and it's also going to keep the other people in the race further down. And because of that, I think Biden was polling better than all the GOP nominees or all the GOP candidates. If the election was held today and Biden was in the race, he would have beat any of the candidates for the Republican Party. On the other hand, Hillary's polling badly against the GOP candidates. If the election were held today, all of them would beat her, or at least the top 4 candidates would. So I think the Dems probably got hurt a little bit by the fact that she now looks like the presumptive nominee.
I also want to tell everybody that Francis is in our Francis McCloskey's in our chat.
Francis?
Yeah, he's guessed Alton. He gave himself the name Alton. It's
my winner of the week is now Francis McCloskey.
See, he didn't. He didn't have a winner. I mean,
he's still. Well, you took my winner, asshole.
No, we can have the same winner. You can have the same winner.
He's still banned from all my pages, and I'm proud to say that.
How can you ban Francis? He is
So
very
annoying. He's so annoying.
He's full of substance. He's full of substance, and you should like him.
Since he's joined the show, I'll lift the ban on Modern Libertarian.
Yeah, since he watches our show all
Not
the
on
time.
my personal page, because he gets creepy.
He doesn't have swim club anymore, so he can watch, I think. And I don't. And for the time being, American Idol isn't on, so I think I'm right.
I get it, Franny. I get it. My loser of the week is going to be. I don't know.
Making it up on the fly. This is bunk.
I didn't have a loser. I had a winner. It was going to be Hillary Clinton, but Kevin over here decided to steal it from me. Oh, my loser of the week will be Barack Obama, because the Iran deal isn't looking like it's turning out the way he is starting to sell it. I don't know if you guys heard. Iran has successfully launched a long-range ballistic missile, and also a very impressive torpedo has been successfully launched. But the Russians have nothing to do with it. They promised.
No, they didn't provide them. They didn't provide them.
Those tensions are a lot better.
It's funny because Jim Webb kind of nailed that yesterday at the debate. I mean, he was pretty good on foreign policy, I gotta say, much better than Hillary Clinton.
He doesn't seem like a hawk either, so.
He seemed what?
You know what? I'll make him my winner. You know, screw you, Francis. Jim Webb's my winner because I think he made a showing.
Yeah.
I watched some YouTube highlights of him on the debate.
What was your take on Jim Webb, Kevin?
Yeah, no, I thought he has no place running, frankly, for president of either party, because he's a centrist, or at least he's a little too liberal for a conservative, and he's too conservative for a liberal. And the masses want somebody as far to the extreme on their ideology as possible. That's why somebody like Bernie Sanders is doing well. Is that I think people in general believe that he's the most Democrat, and that's why he gets the most support.
There's no way I would consider Donald Trump a conservative. Okay, he's not a conservative.
No, but I don't think Trump is going to get the nomination. I'm not talking about Trump, but I'm saying in general, I think people on the left, more so than the right, but people on the left, they don't want a centrist. They want somebody as far to the left as they can get.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think you're right, because I keep seeing on the on Facebook like a lot of the results about how the internet reacted to the debate, and I think that's a pretty good metric for young people. And Bernie Sanders just blew up the whole chart. So I think that shows that the party is moving left, and like Austin said about making the foundations for a libertarian movement, Bernie Sanders is building on sort of even what Barack Obama did, really, as a leftist, and cementing those roots. And I do think that it is making, like you said earlier, making the ground for like an Elizabeth Warren. And it's igniting young people, but on a much larger scale than I would hope.
My only hope is that the old saying that you're a liberal when you're young and you're a conservative when you're older is gonna come true, because the liberals, the things that Bernie Sanders wants to impose on America are, they're European to the I mean they're really gonna. He wants to increase the size of government by 52%. The federal.
Oh
government.
yeah, it's gonna completely. We wouldn't have states' rights anymore.
But people like it. I mean, you got a quarter of well, at least a quarter of Democrats want that.
Exist in the United States. Well, I have a question for you. I don't know this because I'm not a political person. If Rand Paul won the presidential nomination, could he have Jim Webb be his vice presidential candidate?
No, he can pick whoever he wants.
Oh, really? It's not a party thing?
No, doesn't have to be.
There was a situation, I think, where who was considering Lieberman, a conservative,
oh yeah, there was
a Republican.
It was McCain.
Yeah, was considering having Lieberman as his vice presidential.
Who was an independent? Yeah, but I mean,
I think that would be a great ticket, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, if Rand Paul's going to run, he's going to pick an establishment Republican guy. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just tends to how it be to get people in the middle. And I don't know
about Austin as the VP nominee for the Libertarian Party. I mean, if he's doing so well.
Yeah, I mean,
that'd be a stepping stone for him.
I mean,
if I was a Libertarian voter, I would vote for him over Gary Johnson.
You would?
Yeah.
All right, I have winners and losers too. My winner is is Grant Phillips for finally posting to Unbiased America Live, or on my Unbiased America website, which I actually just redid, and it looks pretty good. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would. It's a lot better than the shitty time I did it.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right? I figured this out. I sat at the computer
Yeah,
for
you
hours.
need to fine tune it in a couple areas.
Right, but okay, but it looks better, and I don't know how to fine tune, so I did better.
Yeah,
And
yeah, we can work on it.
so we'll post that on Unbiased America. It's on child labor. And my loser
Horrible.
that's a really great one.
Well, I wrote it just because I want to force Kevin's child to work in a factory.
Well, who does?
So
I
do
mean,
I. Fucker, he should be. Excuse me, language, but he should have a job already. He's 7 years old. He hasn't made a cent.
yeah, he should be contributing. How do you think that fire costs no money to light in those
Those
candles?
Corinthian columns weren't free, buddy.
God forbid one of those French doors open and you lose a little bit of heat. That's another $1,000. Okay. My loser is Bernie Sanders for not taking the opportunity to nail Hillary Clinton over most of her criminal activity, and I think that's what some of Sanders' supporters wanted to see. They didn't get it. Instead, he provided cover for Hillary and really hurt his chances. He should have went after her instead of saying, "I don't want to hear about the emails." He should have went after her as untrustworthy, and and hit her for a corporatist record. But I didn't see it. He blew the chance.
I think he did it because he saw what attacking the Republican Party did to Ron Paul and is doing to Rand Paul. I think he saw the red flag and was like, I don't want to roll those dice with this kind of momentum right now.
But you mentioned it earlier, the anti-establishment mentality, and to pick up other voters.
It's growing, and it's going to be if you grew up in a Democrat household, you're just going to be a far left socialist.
Right.
The generational politics just moves one step further to the extreme.
There are libertarians that are supporting Bernie Sanders because they feel
like
Trump too. They feel like he's anti-establishment, and that to them is more important than a lot of his positions.
He's pro-Federal Reserve, so I don't know why any libertarian would support him.
Neither do I.
Yeah, I agree.
Among other things, obviously, but that being the big one.
Okay. I guess we got everything pretty much out of the way. Thanks for Austin to coming on. Again, Grant Phillips from the Modern Libertarian and We Are Capitalists. Kevin Ryan, Unbiased America. That was a good post today, Kevin, on Bernie's claim.
Thanks.
Very good. It was on are the rich getting richer? The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. We've heard it a million times. It's so untrue. This idea that there's this inequality. If somebody who's making $100,000 a year and the person who's making 10, if their income doubles to 20,000, and the person who's making 100,000 earns another 20,000, who's harmed by that? I think people think that wealth needs to be produced in order to go anywhere, and if you're not creating wealth, nobody's getting wealthier.
Yeah, there's a narrative. I'm working on a post about this idea that life was so much better in the 50s, and how somehow our quality of living is lower now than it was in the 50s, and how absurd of a statement that is. And yet I hear it all the time.
Right.
And I'm doing one that is, I've been to a lot of places in the world, like countries that have been embedded in socialist regimes, like Brazil and South Africa and Croatia and all over the place. And I've seen firsthand the long-run problems that have been created. So it's going to be like a sort of a perspective with some research on it as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just want to say, everybody, thanks for showing up. Walter Block will be on next week. We'll have a good discourse with him, I'm sure. So if you want to hear from Block, we'll post links everywhere again. And thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week, hopefully. And Kevin, when do we plan on getting some leftist pages on here so that they can tell us how wrong we are?
The 28th.
Yes.
The 28th?
Manny Schweitz and the admin from Liberal. I'm hoping the admin from Liberal America.
Okay. All right. So
what is Schweitz the admin of?
His own page, and editor of Forward Progressives.
Yes. Yep. That'll be a good show.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot, everyone, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.